Today, we are getting into tight end rankings. So this will wrap up the position previews. And then we're going to be doing top 50 of both 10-team and 12-team Superflex leagues over the weekend. How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing good, my friend. Excited.
So tier 1, the S tier, is the top 3, right? The big 3 basically this year at tight end is Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and George Kittle. I understand targeting one of these guys early. I feel like they go a little bit earlier than I'm comfortable with, but I kind of understand. I mean, these guys stand head and shoulders above the group from last year. And really it was like Jonnu Smith, I think, was tight end 4. So there's just a lot of variability after this, but these guys are kind of established players, tried and true.
Yeah, I think Kittle's been the heaviest target of mine when I do go for the top 3, just because I can wait around. But it'll be interesting to see if McBride can kind of change the curse of not being able to score touchdowns. I know you've already heard a million times where he didn't even score touchdowns at Colorado State, and he's just like allergic to the end zone. And it wasn't for a lack of trying for Arizona. I mean, they were pushing the envelope. So if we do see like a 6 to 8 touchdown season from him this year, he will be pushed up, I'm sure, to that number 1 spot. But again, definitely head and shoulders this tier. And Kittle, he was the tight end 1 in points per game last year, and then they lose Debo. Ayuk is on the pup, so I think he could be in for a monster season.
Yeah, I think that isn't getting talked about enough, actually, that he could legitimately be the top target earner this year. And he has not exceeded 100 targets in years, despite the fact he's maintained his top 5 status year over year. If he pushes up another 20 targets or so and gets, 110, 120 targets, that could be really dangerous at the position. So I really like Kittle, really like that as a target for everybody, especially when you can get him a round or 2 later than these other guys. Since we didn't give Brock Bowers much love, he's the top dog at the position, right? I mean, he's going to be the number 1 in the offense. Geno and him have been clicking in a major way. Geno's like, yeah, that's good. There's going to be a lot of that. My job is to get him the ball as much as I physically can. So there's definitely some hype around Bowers, and I think justified as well. It's just when you're structuring your team, we talk about wanting to get in at that top 8 at wide receiver. So when he's going before that position, that tier of receiver has been exhausted, I always have trouble pulling the trigger on him. Moving down to the second tier now, 3 more players: Sam LaPorta, TJ Hockenson, and David Njoku. In this tier, it's kind of funny because, the tier of 4 through 6, I feel like is always a great spot to avoid the position, right? It's just like, we feel good about this. We feel like they're going to be starters. And then it's always just like, I feel like we shouldn't have even done this, and you end up with somebody down later anyways. But I will say about this group is Njoku is the guy going later already. So you can kind of get a great value in our opinions on him specifically because he's getting ranked closer to 10 than he is to 6. And the other guys, I never am drawn to pick LaPorta ever. On Sleeper, he's ranked at 46 right now. And, there's not another tight end ranked until 75, which is Hockenson. And I just don't think that there's that much of a gap between them. I might even prefer Hockenson to LaPorta. So he's the one tight end specifically that I'm drafting none of, and I've gotten none of, and I'm not that interested in drafting really.
Yeah, I actually have Hockenson and LaPorta flipped. I just think with Hockenson, the fact that Jordan Addison's going to be suspended for the first 3 weeks is going to make him the clear-cut number 2 on this offense. And as a rookie quarterback trying to get your footing underneath you, what's an easier target than your tight end? So I think we're going to see him get off to a pretty hot start. So again, when he's ranked so much lower than LaPorta on Sleeper, he's definitely a target of mine. But there is no heavier target of mine than David Njoku, because Sleeper has him ranked like tight end, 11 or 12 or something ridiculous. So I'm definitely building my strategy off of that. And another caveat to that is like, just because they have him buried, like, don't think you have to wait until tight end 12 to take him. Like, you can pick him around above where they have him in the ADP, because you're not the only person that's going to be like, hey, wait a minute, he and Joe Flacco played together once and he was completely elite at the position. So I think that's going to be fantastic for him. We'll see how many games Flacco plays, but if you're able to get him as a late round guy, I think that's definitely worth doing. And then what's going to happen is week 1, we're going to look at tight end rankings, and Njoku is going to be ranked tight end 4 because they're playing against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. Njoku Njoku is that guy that if we could guarantee Flacco is going to be the starter all year, he'd be tight end 4. Like across the board, there would be no argument otherwise. So he definitely will be ranked highly early in the season. And they have a brutal schedule. They are going to be losing a lot early in the year. So they queue up a bunch of easy throws to David Njoku. Going down to tier 3 now, the B tier here. We got a lot of names in this tier, and this kind of captures your 10-team starters, 12-team starters almost. Right, this is down to 11. Kicking off with Evan Engram. So if I do miss on David Njoku, or somebody does go up and reach to get him, not reach, but goes up and gets him earlier than I've been selecting him in my prep, I do pivot to Evan Engram. I do think that there's an opportunity here for him to be the number 2. And if that does play out, then there can be quite a bit of volume there in that Sean Payton offense. Next guy up is Tucker Kraft. Again, young, very good player, could also be the number 2 in the Packers offense. He is banged up currently, so hopefully he can get healthy before the season. Tyler Warren, he's one of my favorite players to draft too. I just feel like he's going as tight end 6 or 7. So at that point in the draft, I'm still trying to fill out my starting lineup. In starting lineups where there may be a little bit less starters, right, where you have 1 quarterback or 2 wide receivers, I would definitely be targeting Tyler Warren a lot more in that round 7 or 8 range, where he's currently going.
And then with Mark Andrews, obviously a very weird season last year. Like he was pushed up very high in tight end rankings, of course, kind of came out, was a ghost. And then his season was really saved by the amount of touchdowns that he scored. So I am a little bit concerned about that. And I am a little bit concerned about the fact that Lamar threw 41 touchdowns. So I don't necessarily know if we're going to see a repeat of that. But, if he is getting pushed down late and your thought process with tight end is like, I need one of these guys to score a touchdown anyway, then, I think Mark Andrews is an okay target. And then with Kelce, like I think maybe in the beginning of the season when Rashee Rice is out, he can have some value. But we saw at the beginning of last year, he was just kind of a ghost when Rashee was getting all those targets. So I am a little bit weary about him. And then Colston Loveland, he's actually someone that I'm targeting. I think I have 1 spot above Tyler Warren. I just think that obviously the Bears offense is very crowded. And of course the Colts offense is very crowded as well. But, we saw that this was the first guy that Ben Johnson hand selected as part of the new regime. We saw Ben Johnson support a tight end 1 his rookie season in Sam LaPorta. And Loveland's just also an incredible player. And we've seen in this offense last year, Cole Kmet have some flashes too. And he's a much better player than Cole Kmet. Even if we see a lot of 12 personnel, I think that's going to be even better for Loveland too. So, depending on where these guys go in your various platforms is how you would target them, because you mentioned with Warren, like Sleeper has him pushed way up. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not going to go in on him. And some platforms, Loveland might be tight end 14. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait till the end and take this guy I really like anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole tier shakes out. But there are some players that I definitely like.
Yeah, Loveland is one of the guys. If I put together a list of like guys I'm afraid about being wrong on, Loveland would be on there because, again, he got drafted so highly. He wasn't even projected to go that high. And then Ben Johnson goes out and gets his guy. And we saw how good Sam LaPorta was right out of the gate as a rookie in Ben Johnson's offense. And so if that's going to be the role and that's going to be the case right away for Loveland, it's going to feel way too low, right? I mean, look at where we have LaPorta still ranked, even though he's not in that offense anymore. So Loveland is definitely the one I'm most scared of being wrong on. And I think even despite how crowded the offense is, like I expect him to be ahead of Luther Burden. And so it's just a matter of like carving out of 20% target share specifically for the tight end position. And if he gets all of that, he's going to be really good. So I'm definitely worried about being wrong on Loveland and somebody that's turning into more of a late round target for me too.
Yeah, and I remember like in dynasty circles pre-draft, everyone was like, Tyler Warren's the guy, like he's the clear-cut number 1. And then I was watching Joel Klatt was kind of breaking down his top position players heading into the draft, and he had Loveland over Warren. And I was like, that's interesting. I haven't really heard that a ton. And then, of course, the draft comes on, and who goes first?
Yeah, definitely. And, I think it was funny that pundits figured out that Chicago wanted to go tight end because I did start seeing Warren getting mock drafted to the Bears at 10. And so that's kind of what put it on my radar that, maybe the Colts are going to have to trade up to get Warren. But I don't know if they just didn't fall for the smokescreen or if they were okay taking Loveland too, or what happened there. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting dynamic to the draft if you were following that. All right, and then the last tier here, only a couple players here. This is kind of the avoid tier at the position if you can, try and get in before these are your options. The first guy is Jonnu Smith, Arthur Smith offense, but never really was awesome because he was kind of playing behind Kyle Pitts or ahead of Kyle Pitts. I don't know. But, I don't think he's necessarily the best option this year. And, I think you can try and get in before you have to take him. Dalton Kincaid, this is somebody that I'm not a fan of at all. This ranking is fueled mostly by you, I think, because I have him buried even like behind Zach Ertz. I think I just don't know that we're ever going to see it here. And until we do, I'm not going to be picking him. I'll continue to be right on him until I'm really wrong, if he does break out, because, I'm not pushing him up into 5 ever. That's where he was last year. I was like, this is the easiest call, biggest avoid ever.
Well,
like, don't draft him.
we got a ton of crap last year when we were saying be worried about Dalton Kincaid, like when Dawson Knox is playing, like he's just not on the field. And it's like, I thought he was an absolute stud at Utah. He was making big plays. Like he was a yak monster, and that kind of just disappeared at the NFL level. So I've definitely been more disappointed in his career trajectory than Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts felt like a little bit more of these like built in a lab type athletes, but Kincaid was just like a football player, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's been kind of rough to watch, but I hope, I hope he can score some touchdowns this year with Shakir out, maybe get a little bit more involved, but I don't know. I'm just kind of out.
I mean, he was a first round pick, and when Knox was off the field, he flashed as a rookie, but
yeah,
I don't know. I just was never in. I mean, he had a great rookie season, and it was like tight end 13. It was literally a waiver wire player, and everybody's like, okay, now's the time to take the leap to tight end 5. He's going to increase his volume a lot. And I was like, based on what? He didn't increase his volume when Knox is out there. When Knox is still on the team, unless I'm mistaken. And, so anyways, I feel a little bit vindicated there because that's been one of my best calls at this position specifically. I haven't fallen into that trap. And going on to the next guy that I also have not fallen into the trap is Kyle Pitts. I've never owned Kyle Pitts other than maybe a couple weeks off the waiver wire, just to say I owned him. But, I don't know. I don't really feel good about him here either, but I will say at least it's Penix, and it seems like they have some sort of connection. So if you're going to take a shot on somebody that's not going to be very good, I guess that's the shot you can take. And for as good as Kincaid had that little window his rookie year, like Pitts was actually good as a rookie. Over 1,000 yards, second most receiving yards all time for a rookie tight end. And so he didn't score touchdowns as a rookie. That's why he wasn't that good, but it's kind of fallen apart since then. Still only 24. So like there's going to be hype or whatever. But, if you're going to take a shot on somebody in your last round, then Pitts, I guess, is fine. And then the last guy is Jake Ferguson, somebody that I like better than Pitts. I think he could get a pretty sizable role in what should be a very high volume passing game. And Dak has already built rapport with him. So hopefully, he can be at least decent. And I know last year he had a couple weeks where he was being ranked in the top 5 tight ends for like a weekly rank. And so I could see that possibly being a thing. It's not like Pickens draws a ton of targets. So I could see a situation where Ferguson maintains his target share.
Dak does like to target his tight end in the red zone, but a couple years ago when CD finished as the wide receiver 1, Ferg was over 100 targets. So I think a lot of those, not all of them obviously are going to get shifted toward Pickens, but I think just a little bit of that pie, which makes me worried. But again, these are probably waiver wire guys unless you're in a really deep league. And if you are in a really deep league, to me, that's like, okay, maybe we should be attacking that Njoku, Hockenson tier, or even the Tucker Crafts of the world a little bit more aggressively, because I don't really want to play that carousel with some of these guys.
All right. And with that, thank you so much for listening. This concludes our position rankings going into draft season. Good luck in your drafts, and we look forward to talking to you the next one.